Hi, I'm Cheyenne Cook and I'm the owner of CK Solutions. We specialize in industrial hygiene here in Denver. Stay tuned to hear about how we help clean up the messes others have left behind as we speak with some of our esteemed colleagues and friends.
Hey everyone, my name is Kenna with CK Solutions Safety Talks, and today we have on Apolonia Rockwell with True Safety Services. How are you, Apolonia?
I'm doing awesome. I am almost 8 weeks, almost 8 months pregnant in this heat. And so every day is like a win just to make it through. So, but yeah, I'm doing really good. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I could not even tell from here.
Jeez, thanks. I'll take it.
Yeah. So will you tell me a little bit about True Safety Services and what you guys do?
Absolutely. So we are a safety training and a consulting business. We specialize in OSHA compliance. And so primarily the industries that we serve are oil and gas and construction. We also serve manufacturing and trucking companies as well, but really focusing on the training space.
So what are some of those like services that you guys are offering?
Yeah, so on the training side, we offer a ton of safe land, H2S, first aid CPR AED classes, trenching and excavation, fall protection, and confined space, and OSHA 10 and 30 classes.
Nice. Okay, so I'm obviously you're a safety professional. You went to school for it. Uh, what are some of those like big occupational hazards that you guys are training for that some of these people that are coming in are going to see?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question because yes, we offer the OSHA compliance subjects like fall protection, confined space. But when I hear you say, what is the biggest hazard that we train for? Like to me, that's culture and that's leadership and that's the people person, like the people side of things and the human aspects when it comes to hazards and our mindset and how we show up and do we really care about the person that we're working next to. And so actually I'll answer that in a different way, is that although we offer OSHA classes, we're always highlighting the behavioral and the human aspect of training and the reality of it all. And if your mind's not in the game, it doesn't matter if you've read the OSHA standards front and back. If that piece of caring about yourself and your coworker isn't there, then it doesn't matter if you know the regulations or not. So yeah, we're big on the culture piece and the leadership piece.
That's such an interesting answer and one that I was not expecting, but it's an answer that I love because I just think that that really is super important and not really something that people think about when they might be new and coming into the job.
Yeah,
Um,
especially if you're new. I mean, you're probably, I mean, just think of the journey of a new team member. You're a new hire orientation, like you have a new boss and new coworkers, and where do you fit? Like that person's life just changed working at this new company. And I know we preach stop work until we're out of breath, but I mean, I think as safety professionals or leadership or who, you don't even have to have a specific title, but just think we always need to be sensitive to the journey of a new team member and how realistic is it that someone would speak up. And so just always going back to the human aspect of it all, and we're all pretty much the same. I mean, we think we're so different and we're so complicated, but we're really not, and for the most part. And so if somebody's listening thinking like how can I influence my company a little bit different, it would be just think about the human piece of it all. You don't always have to have all the environmental or OSHA knowledge to make the right decision. Just make the right decision as a human.
yeah, you don't need to just barely skirt by and follow the standards. It's more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So how are you currently training the people that are coming in to, follow like the safety guidelines, but also kind of what you're talking about with culture? Like, what does that training kind of consist of?
Yeah. So it consists of going over the OSHA basics, right? Like if we're doing a safe land class or doing a first aid class, we're going to talk about the basics there. But what's best in a classroom setting, whether it's virtual or in person, I mean, you as an instructor, as a safety professional, you might have the degree and the certifications and have all the knowledge, but I would encourage everyone to break the cycle of a traditional classroom and pull from your students and hear what they have to say, because they're the real experts when it comes to, if you have a class of welders and drivers and roustabout, and they're the field experts. And so what do they have to say about first aid experiences? And what kind of, you could have somebody that maybe has been at the company for 10 years and they have specific examples of where somebody was injured, or this is, a hot topic or a hot place at our company that this has happened numerous times, so people could be more aware of that. And so how we teach these classes is we try to pull from the students more than we are the know-it-all and the death by PowerPoint. And we just try to get people active and engaged. And that's hard as instructors. Like I get it, that it's hard to lighten up a classroom, especially when we're going over environmental and in OSHA, as you know. Everyone's so thrilled to be in our class anyways. So it's like, how can we make this so you don't want to kill yourself? So
Yeah.
Pulling on everyone's experience, and then how we talk about the human aspect of it is when you break up your classroom into activities and you're making them the experts and you're pulling information out of them, that's where the human piece will come from. Is they'll say, like, so and so who's been with the company, they'll talk about all these injuries maybe, or all these near misses at their company, and then you're like, what do you think? You ask them, like, you stay curious as an instructor, because going back to the philosophy, we're not the know-it-alls. Like, why do you think that happened? And it always comes down to human behavior, right? And so it's like you process that and talk about the challenges. Oh, well, at that time we were working over 40 hours, or that was the night shift. And so you get into those topics by your students bringing them up. So that's how we've seen one tidbit that you can take back for anyone listening if you're training a class.
Yeah. So for when you're doing these classes, do you find like in person or online is better?
Definitely in person is always better. I mean, I think we can all relate that, gosh, the energy in the room is different when you're in person. But that's not to say that it's impossible virtual, because with everything going on today in our world, it's like, oh, are we about to face another shutdown? Like I don't want people to be so discouraged to think I can't have an effective, engaging class if I'm doing it virtual. You can break it out and do teamwork and talk about behavioral pieces, and you could talk about those things virtual too.
Yeah, and especially with COVID too, I'm sure that's kind of more of the way we might be leaning in the future.
Absolutely, yeah.
But how do you think COVID, and I know you guys do some trainings on this, how has COVID like affected workplace safety?
The first thing comes to mind. I hate to always go to this, but the first thing that comes to mind is the culture piece, because boots on the ground, the guys and girls that I work with, where they're doing actual field site visits, and we continued that service throughout COVID. And we're like, what is the biggest hazard? And everyone came to the table and was like, morale. It didn't matter if we were serving a construction company, an oil and gas company. Didn't matter the industry. We all came back and said, what are our clients' biggest challenge right now? And it was morale out in the field, because put yourself in the field worker's position, is that they're wondering, am I going to be employed here or not in the next couple of weeks? Am I going to be able to provide for my families? So when the worker's mind is elsewhere, then that goes the safety too, right? Like we were facing survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you make risky decisions often. oftentimes and not. And so we saw that our field reps were coming back and they were like, man, gosh, I was visiting crews and everyone was really down in the dumps. And like, I'm concerned for that because I'm thinking people aren't going to wear their proper PPE, or people aren't going to speak up about a hazard because their minds are just focused on their family right now. So that would be the biggest thing that we saw hazard wise, was morale.
Interesting. Yeah, that's again it's not really what I was expecting, but I could definitely see that because so many people got laid off, and I know that was like on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, with everything and how it's going, that's still going to be, another topic that's going to have to be talked about, especially in these like training programs. So what, like in Colorado, because here's a question about Colorado. Are there any unique Colorado regulations compared to other states when it comes to safety?
Mhm. I would say we mainly I'll just speak from my personal experience. We operate primarily in Colorado, Wyoming, and in Texas and New Mexico. And really the biggest thing that comes to mind is we our Colorado clients often face positive drug tests for randoms, for new hires. I mean, that's something that that's really the biggest thing that's different is Colorado. Are we allowed to do what we want to do, smoke weed on the weekends? Like, from employees are asking that question, and employers have to address that. And so that's really the biggest thing, is the casual marijuana conversation is here in Colorado versus our Texas team. They're like, what? Like, zero tolerance, right? And that's, I mean, I wouldn't say that I would say a one hot topic too, not as much, but trenching and excavation has been a huge OSHA focus point in Colorado. But that's not to say that we're not having the same issues. If we took the same deep dive in Texas, we're facing the same challenges everywhere around. It's just that right now, in the last couple months, trenching excavation has been a huge focus for OSHA.
Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
So here's a question about marijuana usage in Colorado.
Mhm.
Does it go by employer, or is it zero for everyone? I actually don't know.
Yeah, for all of the clients that we're working with, they previously had a zero tolerance drug and alcohol policy, and they've been able to remain that policy throughout. So, they haven't been able to make exclusions for someone that had their medical card or anything like that. And so employees thought that, sure, and they were really upset when they were let go, but it's an employer policy. And I don't know, yeah, like you said, other companies, how they're handling that. But anyone that had a zero tolerance policy has continued that.
Okay, that's so interesting. Okay, I haven't heard anything about that. So,
Yeah.
um, so here's like a question to kind of wrap it all up, and I think it's probably one of the more important questions that I like to ask everyone. Why do you think safety is important in the workplace?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you that my first funeral that I ever attended in my life was in the third grade, and it was my dad's best friend. And my dad and this guy, they were like rock stars. They were working on the drilling rig, and they were oil field, like, come to our classroom in the third grade with like mullets and cutoffs and dirty jeans before this was cool, like tucked in. Like, they were just rock stars of our lives. And one day my dad sat me down and told me that my friend and his dad wasn't coming home. And I'll tell you that it was a fall from heights. It was on a drilling rig. And he died instantly. And a 3 to 5 second death, 3 to 5 second accident lasts forever, right? And the impact is a forever deal. and life can be taken from you just like that,
Mhm.
as we all know. And for me, seeing that family during that time, like life does move on, but it moves on different for them. And I saw that this dad had 2 girls and a son and a wife that he left behind. And like, that was so long ago, but that
Mhm.
is so real to that family today. Like, he still says to this day, I lost my dad while on the job, 20 some years ago. And it's like, so that's why, because life can be taken from you just like that.
Mhm.
And I just, yeah, life is so valuable, and we should, care about our own safety. But I'm definitely here to spread the message that your safety is important, but it's equally as important to look out for the person next to you, because you're probably a safety professional or you work in this industry. If you do, any safety professional listening knows that when they've done an incident investigation, they know that the injured employee, everyone around them knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was wrong, but like somebody else was there and nobody said anything about it.
Mhm.
And there weren't, all the witness statements said, yeah, well, like we knew she wasn't doing the right thing. I just didn't say anything. So life is precious, and yeah.
Yeah, I love that answer. And it's cool that, you kind of experienced it firsthand and how it affects people. And then kind of here you are today, helping make sure that never happens.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. But thank you for talking to me today about, all things safety and about True Safety Services. And it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Yes, I had so much fun. Thank you so much. Well, we'll
Yeah.
chat soon.
Yes, talk soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.